y'all, welcome back to my channel. Aimee here. If you hear some humming in the background, it's just my heater. I am freezing. It's pretty cold outside today, as well as a little gloomy, so I don't have much sun, but we're gonna go with it. So today starts my just getting all my books I read together for 2023 and just telling you the books I DNF'd, what disappointed me, my favorites, my tops. So in this video, we're gonna, of course, start it off low. We're gonna talk about books I DNF'd, which actually weren't a lot. I DNF'd a total of 4 books, but I did read some reads that were disappointing to me. I had higher hopes for them. So yeah, we'll talk about those too in this video. So let's get started. My first DNF of the year was a book by a new author that I was going to try because it was recommended by one of my favorite male romance authors. I saw it on this author's Instagram page, so I was like, oh well, let me give it a shot. But for some reason it did not work for me, and that is Scapegoat by J.R. Gray. This is supposed to be the first book in a series called Working Dogs. I started it off as an audiobook, and I don't even remember how far I got, and I didn't even write down why I didn't like it. I'm not sure. I don't remember anything about it, but from what I remember, the synopsis sounded real good. So we have Special Agent Nolan Hudson and then Officer Callum Stone. So from Special Agent Nolan, we get, at 17 I ran. I joined the military and plan to never step foot in my hometown again. Nothing could make me return to that hellhole and the pain I buried there, or so I thought, until I found myself on a plane to that very place almost 2 decades later. I'm forced home to help find a missing 9-year-old. As a member of the most elite K-9 special unit in the country, it was my job, and you can't exactly say no to the FBI. It should be easy, and I won't have to face what I ran from. However, the case is anything but simple, and to make matters worse, I'm faced with the last person I ever wanted to see again. Then we go into Officer Callum Stone, the sheriff's son and the town's golden boy. Only he's not that anymore. He's a ruin of what he once was. It's Callum's kid who's missing, and all the feelings I'd spent almost 20 years running from rise to the surface. As secrets come to life, we realize our small town is hiding a lot more than we thought, and we'll have to follow the trail of the deception to get justice and maybe a second chance at love. It says Scapegoat is a second chance male romantic suspense featuring a small town, some FBI K-9 fun, and hurt comfort vibes. So it sounded like it would be right up my alley, but for some reason, I don't know, it just didn't work for me. I don't even remember why I shut it down. I do still have it on my Audible. Maybe it was a narrator. Maybe sometime this year I'll maybe try to go back to it and maybe just read it physically. A lot of times that can make a difference for me. Just revisiting a book. If I started it on audio, maybe try reading it physically. Sometimes that makes a difference for me. So yeah, that's Scapegoat by J.R. Gray. Not only did I DNF this book, but I was really disappointed in it because I have read from this author before, and I was obsessed with the House of Night series that she wrote with her mother, P.C. Cass. This is The Key to Fear by Kristen Cass. This was the beginning of a new series, but I don't know if like this series was ever done again. I don't, let me look it up and see real quick. The series is called The Key. Oh, we get The Key to Fury is book number 2 that released in 2022. That shows you how much I looked into this. I do remember this book being not about COVID, but it was based on a virus that hit. She wrote this book before COVID hit. So this may hit home to a lot of people, that this could be a trigger of a book. But she did say that she wrote it before COVID hit, but it is based off of a disease that hit the nation. I think I have some notes about this book, even though I DNF'd it. Oh, I do. So in my Goodreads review, I put, this is described as a dystopian thriller, which I was excited about, but I just couldn't get engaged. I got to chapter 7 by the hardest. I also tried this on audio since it is included in my Audible subscription. Yeah, so this was, like, I didn't have to use a credit. This was included in my subscription, and I didn't care for the narration. It says, so this is about a deadly virus that is passed through touch. The key corporation has been protecting everyone for over 50 years against this virus, and apparently there are some secrets that the corporation are hiding. Sounds good, and I was all about a deadly virus because I'm morbid like that. This is true. But again, I couldn't get invested in the story or the characters. So yeah, there you have it. The next 2 books I don't have in my possession because I ended up donating them. So this next book is My Wife is Missing by DJ Palmer. I've only read one other book by DJ Palmer, and I did really like it, The New Husband. But for some reason, and I don't remember, but I ended up DNF'ing this one. Let me see if I have any notes on this one. Okay, so in this one, we have a wife who leaves her husband, and that's all like in the very beginning, but she just kind of leaves without a trace. He doesn't know what happened. He doesn't know what she did. So in my first thoughts, I have pretty good. I'm into it. Anxious to know why she left without him knowing. And then my final impression says DNF. I found myself rolling my eyes a lot. I didn't like Natalie, and I don't care. Natalie was the wife, and I do remember that. Like, this is like the very first part of the book. We get a lot of her narrative. But she doesn't really explain like what's going on, and I don't know. It's my notes here says right away Michael notices something is not right when he returns from picking up pizza. The hotel room is unusually empty. Then he notices his suitcase is the only one in the room. Then I put like, this is too easy. It also says Natalie has insomnia and she is seeing things. She's very unreliable. And that was that. That is My Wife is Missing by DJ Palmer. It sounded really good, and maybe if I'd have kept on going, it would have been good. I don't know. I don't know if I maybe plan on trying to get back into this. Maybe if I try to just read it physically, it might be better for me. I don't know. We'll see. Let me know in the comments if you did read this book and how you felt about it. The last book I DNF'd in 2023 is Hairpin Bridge by Taylor Adams. I do vaguely sort of remember a little bit about this book. I know we have some twins, some sisters. One of them, I don't remember if she went missing or she was already dead. Did she get murdered? It has to do with Hairpin Bridge, which is also known as Suicide Bridge. I mean, cliche right there. But already in my first thoughts, I'm not really into it. In my final thoughts, I say boring and unnecessary. So we have Lena's twin sister, Cambry, who supposedly committed suicide, plunging to her death off the Hairpin Bridge, also named the Suicide Bridge. I mean, come on. The book starts with Lena interviewing Raymond Racevic. It was a weird last name. The cop that found Cambry's body after stopping to check out her abandoned car. And then we jump to Lena's blog in the middle of the chapter. So I remember like being confused, like what is going on here? We have Lena, and then we have this blog. Is she writing a book? I have chapter 2 seems to be Lena writing a story about Cambry. It's a little confusing. Not sure if Lena is writing this book or if we're following Cambry's actual story. I'm getting the impression Lena thinks this cop is involved in Cambry's death. That maybe he's not a real cop. Is he to be trusted? And then after that I put, I've completely lost interest. So is this cop guilty? Did he kill Cambry? Is he even a cop? I'm done. DNF. Oh, I remember, yes, describing a deer getting ran over by a Mack truck is my limit. Yeah, so not only was I not interested in the book and I just wasn't getting into it, then they want to describe how this deer jumps into the road and gets killed by a Mack truck, like in detail. No thank you. Done. Alright, let's move on to my most disappointing books in 2023. I have a nice little stack here. So, First off, let's start with In My Dreams, I Hold a Knife by Ashley Winstead. Everyone was hyping this book up, so I was like, okay, here we go. It was okay, just in my opinion. What did I give it? I gave it a 3.5 star, but I don't know, I don't really remember anything about it. It didn't stick with me. I just remember feeling like just very like underwhelmed over all the hype that this book got. So reading through my notes, I do see that we have, and now that I'm reading my notes, I do remember that we have a pretty great twist at the end. I think that's what gave it my like a little 0.5 there in my rating of 3.5. But we basically have a group of friends that now are at their class reunion. One of their friends had died when they were all in college, and it's like they're just kind of reminiscing over the years and like over the death of this friend. Meanwhile, we're getting, you know, like flashbacks. We're getting like then and now kind of thing. So like we definitely get a timeline, which I absolutely love. So I feel like it was, you know, it was okay, like I said, and that ending really did give me that 0.5 of my 3-star rating. But yeah, I was just very underwhelmed because everyone was so hyped up about it, and it just didn't really excite me that much. But I'll give it that. It was okay. The twist was pretty dang good. Next up, The Resting Place by Camilla Sten. She also wrote The Lost Village, which I've never read, but this just sounded, first of all, the cover got me very much. I love and judge a book by its cover a lot of times. It's usually what gets me in trouble. So we have a pretty good synopsis here. We have a woman that cannot make out features on your face. It's called something. The medical term is prosopagnosia. The average person calls it face blindness, the inability to recognize a familiar person's face. So right away in the beginning, we get the gist of the story. Eleanor is our protagonist that we're going to be following, who has this face blindness. Eleanor and her grandmother Vivian are apparently not on good terms. I don't really remember what the cause of their bad relationship was, but yeah, Eleanor starts getting these calls, like disturbing calls, so she decides she's gonna go check on her grandmother, and she sees someone coming out of the house. Of course, she's not gonna remember who it is, but in my mind, okay, well, this person knows that she has this disease because obviously they're not worried about her seeing them. And that's when she enters the house and finds her grandmother dead. So we also follow a maid, Vivian's maid, back in like 1965. So we're basically getting what went down, why maybe this happened to Vivian. So we're gonna take it back to 1965. We're gonna talk to this maid, and she's gonna tell us her story as it leads into what happened to Eleanor's grandmother, and who this person could possibly be to Eleanor. So yeah, I don't remember what I gave it. So I actually gave this a 1 star. My first thoughts were, I'm bored and uninterested. It's still early in the book though. Final impressions were meh. I was shocked by one twist. Other than that, I wasn't into it, and overall, I just didn't like it. All right, next up we have The London Seance Society by Sarah Penner. I wanted this book because I loved her first book, The Lost Apothecary, and the cover's beautiful, and I thought, hey, if I like that one, surely I'm gonna like this one. So the synopsis was really promising for this one. It says, amid the shrouded parlors of Victorian London, 2 daring women hunt for truth and justice and the perilous art of conjuring the dead. So we do have like, she claims to be a spiritualist, known worldwide for her talent in conjuring the spirits of murdered victims. So what I was thinking was we were gonna have, and it's historical, so it does take place in 1873. So I thought we were gonna have like someone who like helps capturing the murderers of these victims, that the families come to her and she can tell them, you know, like I don't know, so basically solving the crime. That's what I thought we were going to be dealing with, but not so much. Really, we get like the teachings of becoming this seance master, I guess. So we start off with Lena. We're following her around. Lena's sister, I do believe, was murdered. So I think Lena, but then Lena's also trying to become someone who can conjure the spirits to figure out what happened to her sister. It says she describes the beginning of the seance. The couple who are there are wanting to know who murdered their daughter. Lena is a student, and nothing has happened yet. I'm actually a little bored listening to Lena. So Lena's basically in the beginning kind of describing what a seancer is and how she's going to become one, and how she's, you know, being taught by this great seance, Vaudeline, I don't really remember how she pronounced it. Then we hear from a Mr. Marley. He is vice president of the Department of Spiritualism at the London Seance Society. So there's like a part of the society that is just for men. So we kind of go back and forth between these two characters, between Lena and Mr. Marley, and basically we follow them as we figure out what happened to Lena's sister. But yeah, there's not really much of a seance at all going on in here. All we get is like describing what a seance is for like the majority of the first part of the book. We don't really get to like the nitty gritty till like the very last part. I remember that. I just have in my notes that I didn't like it, and I don't know why I didn't DNF it. So there you have it, the London Seance Society. Alright, next is a male-male romance that I was disappointed in. This rarely happens, but here we go. This is Stroker by K.M. Newhold. This is actually the second book in the Big Bull Mechanics series, and I actually have not continued with this series, not because of this book. Well, it may have. It might have put a little dent on why I haven't continued with the series, but I do still want to continue with it. So this is Gates and Tallahassee's story. Gates is the brother of the guy from the first book. I don't remember his name. Steele. Steele was our character we followed in the first book. I really did like that book. And then we have Gates, his brother, and then Tallahassee, who is Steele's best friend. So we have like, you know, Tallahassee kind of falling in love with your best friend's brother kind of deal. Tallahassee works at Big Bull Mechanics with Steele. Gates is he's a little unstable. We do meet him as well as Tallahassee in the first book. And we get to know a little bit about Gates. Gates is also a prankster. He likes to play pranks on people, especially Tallahassee. And of course, you know, he's in love with Tallahassee, so he's gonna pick on him a little bit more. So I just remember like just being really annoyed with Gates. You know, like, I don't know. It was funny and cute in the first book, but then in the second book, it was like sort of the front things happening, and I just got annoyed with it. I was like, enough, you know, like, just enough. Stop being a kid and let's be adults. And do you love this man or not? So my first thoughts I have, it's okay, but I'm annoyed with Gates. His pranks are just not funny anymore. And then my final impression, I say it was okay. I lost interest a little. I don't think I'll be listening to the audio for the rest of the series. So I do remember that, and that might have put a damper on there as well. The audio, I did not like our narrator for this audio. So there you go, that's Stroker. This is the second book in the Big Bull Mechanics series by K.M. Newhold. I will pick up the third book and we'll go from there. Hopefully it gets better. Okay, next is another male-male romance, which is very surprising to me, but we have Kian's Focus. This is by, I forget, Misty Walker. It is part of the Briggs Ferry Bay series with co-authors Kay Webster and then Misty Walker. So it's like Kay Webster would do a book, and then Misty Walker would do a book, and then so on and so forth. I loved Kay Webster's books in this series. Not so much Misty Walker. I just wasn't a fan of this author's writing. I don't know, I just found the writing was very annoying. And you know, this one is focused on Kian, who we meet in the first book, and I had sort of an impression in my mind about Kian. So in the first book was The Sheriff's Secret. I don't remember the sheriff's name. Did I write it down? Anyway, Kian was actually the sheriff's first love. They went to high school together. Basically, Kian wanted to come out and be his true self, but it was hard for our sheriff when he was growing up because of his family and because of the small town. It was a very good story. And then we move on to Kian's story. So, you know, like I said, I had a very distinct impression of Kian in my mind, but we get a totally different character in the second book, in my opinion. I just felt like Kian was not the person I thought was in the first book, and he very much annoyed me. And then we also have Archer. Archer was actually married, and he lost his husband in some sort of fishing tragedy. And then we also have Archer's sister, who lives in Briggs Ferry Bay, and Archer goes to live with her, and the sister has a kid. But there's also a story like with the sister. It's like all of a sudden, like, she turned bad. It just wasn't the story didn't mesh. I don't know what it was. It was kind of like, I felt like it was spacey. I don't know. My first thoughts were only 4 chapters in, not sure how I feel. It's okay, not crazy about the narration. So I did listen to this on audio. That could have been my mistake there as well. But like I said, I did not like Kian's character in this book versus the first book. Final impressions, I say I didn't like Kian or Archer in this story. Kian seemed different from the first book. Archer is a dick. The story was cheesy, sex scenes were cringeworthy, and the narration was not good. I didn't like it. My final words was, thank God it's over. Oh yeah, I did make a highlight, a couple of them actually. I said, okay, his ass clenches just at the knock at the door. Come on, eye roll. So apparently Archer was knocking at Kian's door and his ass clenched. Okay, whatever. Maybe it happens. I don't know. It hasn't happened to me. And then one of my other highlights, I say, wow. So this line is, I'm so grateful I'm Kian's focus. Eye roll. That was the cheesiest line ever. I think that was like the last line of the book. So then I wrote, thank goodness it's over. So yeah, there's Kian's Focus by Misty Walker. Alright, 2 more books to go, and then I'll be done with my most disappointing books. This one really hurts. This one really hurts because I waited a really long time to read this one, and I finally read it. Got the cover I wanted and everything. And I do like this author, The Kind Worth Killing by Peter Swanson. This was like supposedly his best work, in my opinion. I mean, it wasn't terrible, but it wasn't his best work, in my opinion. So I did end up giving this a 3.5 star. I think, again, that half star was partly because of the ending. They might have had a good twist at the end. But my first thoughts on this book was not sure how I feel. I'm 7 chapters in, and I'm kind of bored. Maybe it's just a slow start, question mark. So we have Lily and Ted. Lily and Ted meet at the airport. They are strangers. Over some drinks, Ted tells Lily, you know, about his life, about his marriage, and, you know, how he thinks his wife is cheating on him, his marriage is not that good, how he thinks his wife is only with him for the money. And as a joke, Lily suggests that maybe they should kill his wife. So yeah, we continue to follow Ted a little bit as, you know, in like now, I believe, I don't know, maybe we follow him then. You know, honestly, I don't remember. But I do know we do follow Lily's story from her childhood, which I do remember being a little messed up. But there is, I'm reading through my notes, and there is a great twist in this book. I'm pretty sure that's why I gave it that 0.5 star. So my final impression for this book was not bad, but don't really get the hype. It did pick up, but got slow again. I enjoyed it though. And I said it was a pretty decent thriller. So there you have it. Last but definitely not least, we have The Trap by Catherine Ryan Howard. Super disappointed in this book. because I loved the cover and I just had high hopes for this one. It's actually not that thick of a book. I did listen to it. The narration was actually pretty good from what I'm remembering. But this is based off of, the story is fiction, but it's actually based off some crimes, some true crimes that have taken place in Ireland about missing women. So this book focuses on one missing woman, and we're following her sister around, and she's basically trying to figure out what happened to her sister. So she's pretty much putting herself in danger to figure out what happened to her sister and see if she can catch her kidnapper and maybe rescue her killer, or her kidnapper, not the killer, at the same time. So that's basically, you know, this book in a nutshell, which doesn't sound terrible, but it was just, I just found it boring. I was just bored throughout the majority of the book, through the investigation. In my notes, my first thoughts are up to chapter 6, and I'm kind of bored. And then my final thoughts are, I found this book to be very hard to follow, which I did. I was bored and confused most of the time. Yeah, we're kind of going back and forth. So we're following, okay, the book starts us off with a young woman getting into a car with a stranger. I'm reading my notes because I don't really remember much detail about this book. I just kind of know what it was about in general. Yeah, so like I said, the sister is putting herself in danger just to find, if she can find just to see if she can find her sister's kidnapper, and hopefully finding her sister is basically what we have here. We do also follow an officer, Officer Denise, and she takes along like this woman, basically an amateur. I think she works at like some sort of shelter, but she knows a little bit about this case because of something that was brought to the shelter. So this police officer takes her around with her to investigate this crime. And what brings this crime to the surface is that other women have started to go missing in the same kind of way that I don't even remember the characters' names. Lucy? Let's see. 1 year ago, Lucy's sister, Nikki, left to meet friends at a pub in Dublin and never came home. So we have Lucy and Nikki. So we're following Lucy's story as well as, you know, the police officer, Denise. I do have a tab in this book because, oh, and a highlight. So when we get to the end and we're kind of getting to like, you know, like what's going on, what's happening, I just found like this phrase in this book that I highlighted was just like part of my reason for like not really liking this book. Like how, well, if I ask that question, I may give something away. Anyway, like I said in my notes, it was very confusing. It's hard really to remember any of the details that I read in this book. Let me see, I don't remember what rating I gave it. When did I read this? In October. The Trap, I gave it 2.5 stars. I'm not sure what that half star is for, because I remember the ending just not being what I want it to be. Yeah, because I have weight. What kind of ending was that? And that's it. Thank y'all so much for watching. As always, hope you enjoyed the video. Next up, we're gonna do my most surprising books of 2024. So stay tuned for that, and I will see y'all then in that video. Hope y'all are having a wonderful 2024 so far. Yeah, I'll talk to y'all soon. Bye y'all.